welcome to the show, Mom. Uh, Before we get into hypnotherapy and all of that, I of course know your story, but do tell everyone else how you even got into this, because there's not something that is usually the norm.
Thank you, Anish, for having me at last.
At last.
So in 2005, we came to Mumbai, and I really didn't know anyone. I really didn't know what to do. And suddenly this happened for me that my daughter, your sister Sonika, she had a sinus problem.
Yeah.
And someone just suggested, why don't you do a past life regression for her? And this was an exciting thing to do. And we found a therapist, and I went with her. And then whatever I saw that happened there, I just asked her, where did you learn all this from? And that is how I came into this field. And the moment I started learning and I came to know more about it, it was like homecoming. So, I mean, from 2005 onwards, I have never looked back. I have just studied more, polished my, skills, and just gone ahead.
I also think that in Sonika's case, right, she had sinus for how many ever years.
Oh,
and
lots.
I think one very strange thing is that any of these kind of therapies are always looked at as the last possible thing when nothing else has perhaps worked. And then you're like, you know what, we've tried everything, let's just try this, what's the harm? And that's what happened in Sonika's case, and that really did help.
Yes. You know what, a lot of people are not even aware of all this. And then a lot of people, so I'm so happy that today, we are talking about it, and through this podcast, many more people will come to know about it. So generally people come to us as a last resort. When nothing else has worked, okay, let's try this also. But if you were to try these alternate remedies from the beginning, it helps in your healing. Even if you're going for a surgery or anything for that matter, you're taking medicine. That medicine will work 100-fold, I would say.
It also
than that.
So when you were doing all of this, right? So for everyone listening, Mum would go for these classes. She would come back home and she would tell us a few theories of what she learned, and I would be like, no ways. Like, this is one step away from wearing a tinfoil hat to save yourself from aliens. It sounded that ridiculous. And then I went and attended a few of those classes as well. And the first class I went for, the level 1 of hypnosis, I went in with the attitude that I am going to go there and have so much fun asking so many questions and just ridiculing everyone. And I ended up doing 3 levels of those courses myself because a lot of it did make sense.
Yes.
And I think that's a good way to get into what is hypnosis.
Yeah. So hypnosis is you could say it's a procedure where you change you tap into the subconscious mind. Okay. Now these days, you know that a lot of things are going on, the power of the subconscious mind. Everyone is talking about the subconscious mind these days. So what we do is we facilitate the client to go into their own subconscious mind, which is a trance-like state. And then because the subconscious mind holds all the logical answers to all the illogical things that are happening in our lives. And what troubles us most is when we cannot find logic behind whatever is happening. Why is this happening to me? Why do I like that person so much? Why do I hate my sister so much? These are all illogical things. Why does my boss affect me so much in my office?
Yeah.
So once you can tap into the subconscious mind, all the answers are there.
It's very interesting. When we were driving here, you told me one thing, right? That you are not, like, even when you talk about age. Can you say that?
Yeah. So, we are a combination of body, mind and soul. The soul is an eternal thing. It never dies. It never takes, it just changes form. Like, it has different incarnations. Now, when I say I'm 68 years old, that means that my body is 68 years old. But that body can get hijacked by the mind, which is 3 years old, which is 20 years old, which is, let us say, 50 years old, or it could be even like a very sage type of person is talking through me, which is not really me. So that could be that some other, maybe a previous lifetime mind has taken over, or because I have taken in energy from someone, I have absorbed someone else's energy, so that person's mind is working through me. So mind is a very, very vast thing, and mind can travel time but the body cannot travel time. The body remains what it is.
What is the relationship of mind versus brain, right?
Yeah. So when we talk to people, where do you think from? So a lot of people say brain, some people say mind, and then when you ask them, okay, where is your mind? Even in Hindi we say mera man ye kehta hai. Man is not heart, man is mind. So basically the brain is the hardware and mind is a software. The mind is as large as it has a diameter of 6 feet around us.
The energy
field. It's an energy field. So it is like, it's much stronger than much larger than the body. But the brain and the brain is the connection to the mind. And the mind basically has two parts, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is the intellect part of the mind. What I think and do. What do I think about something? And the subconscious mind, which is like you could say that the conscious mind is 8 to 10% and the subconscious mind is say 90%. So that 90% of the mind holds all our memories. What do I feel about something? What do I think about something? Okay? And we fall on that to respond to our whatever is happening in our lives. And the subconscious is a dormant thing. Like it's a silent, I would say, worker. It controls you in a very big way, but you are not aware of it.
There are so many things that happen subconsciously, right?
Yes.
Even when you're driving certain times, you're doing certain things completely subconsciously. You're not actively thinking that I need to press this now, I need to do that. It's just on autopilot in a way.
Yes. So in a way, we are in a hypnotic trance many times during a day. Even if like you spoke about driving, let us take a lady who cooks every day. Now when she's making chapatis, she's not thinking. She automatically picks up that much of dough, rolls it, and the chapatis are all identical. She's not even looking at that. She's probably cooking some vegetable along with it or talking to someone about it. Why? Because already hypnosis has set in and she's working from her memory.
Also, just to be clear, hypnosis is not someone taking a pendulum in front of you and saying you are a dog and you'll start barking. It's not that has been shown in how many movies, cartoons, all of that stuff.
That is so funny because so many times when I meet people and they'll say, don't look into my eyes, you will hypnotize me. It's nothing like that. It is just a focus, this trance creates focus for you. For example, when you talk about something, let's say you are telling me about a birthday party that you had. So when you are telling something about the past to someone, you're already half there and half here. When you're describing the cake, you can actually see the cake. Sometimes you may even get the taste of that cake in your mouth. So you're already in the past. Already you are in your subconscious mind. I just have to push you a little more just by saying, okay, so you are 5 years old. And your birthday is happening because you are telling me in the past. I'm bringing it into the present and saying, and you will go there and you'll be in a hypnotic trance. And you'll be so focused that you will be able to tell me even things that you may not have noticed earlier.
This is the fun part, that when you're in that state of hypnosis, you're actually hyper aware. You're not only hyper aware of things you could pick up from that, like for example that birthday scene in the past, but also what's happening around you. Like if there's a honk way back in your room, you can also hear that. Yes. So it's not that someone will hypnotize you and just make you do things and you won't have any recollection of that.
No, it is not that. You see, there's a misuse. There can be a misuse of anything. Okay? But as a therapist, the state we take you down into the trance, your conscious mind is also aware of what is happening, because it is you are going to use your intellect to understand what happened in the past, so that now you can make your present and your future better. I cannot tell you what to do, because my values are different than other people's values. So they have to run their life based on their circumstances, their values, not our values. All we do is that when we take them into a trance, we take them back into time, they understand that, oh, this is what happened. And now it is no longer I don't need to go through this again over. And then you just create a new thought for yourself.
You don't need to carry on with that baggage.
Yes,
right?
You don't have to carry on with the baggage. You don't have to suffer.
And again, this is not about morality, like what you said, right? This is not about the therapist telling you did this wrong or this is how it should have been done. It's just letting go. And that letting go could be something coming from this life. It could be something coming from a couple of years back. It could be something coming from another lifetime.
Yes, another lifetime. It could be something coming from the mother's womb. You know what? I used to wear a collar. I had a problem. So
like an orthopedic collar.
Yeah. And in one of it was a demos in a class, my teacher, Dr. Sunny Satin, was there. And then he just said, okay, whatever is the reason, it will come to you. And what came to me was that my brother was ill. And I had a thought that now I have to look after the whole family. So I was carrying the burden. And actually I didn't even need to do it. I actually didn't have to do anything. But that thought created that burden, and so all this became painful. The moment I let go of that thought and I said I surrender, and whatever will happen, whenever it is going to happen, I'll take it in my stride. So what? And from that day onwards, I never needed to wear that orthopedic collar again.
So why would someone look at hypnotherapy? What are the kind of situations from just getting more focused about something, because a lot of sports people do that, to things that could be a lot more traumatic? Why would someone consider hypnotherapy, and what all could you possibly help someone with?
So, as I said, we need to bring logic into our lives, because logic removes all the resentments from life. Okay? So we use therapy for, let us say, relationships. We don't get along with people, we hate people, we fall in love with people and all that. Then it helps in diseases. It helps to enhance talents. Actually, you can do anything through therapy.
So let's actually break all three of those down. Let's start with the sports angle, right? Or just focus. It doesn't necessarily have to be about sports. It could be about generally having better focus. Isn't that in a way kind of similar to a lot of meditative stuff? Or
yes,
like to me, there's a big overlap in a lot of these kind of things.
So basically, a trance is the same as a meditative trance. What do we do in meditation? We go into ourselves. So in a trance also, we are going into ourselves. But when you start with meditation, it is like, it will take you years to go. So when you go swimming, you when you're a beginner, you get down those steps, and then you gingerly walk into the water, then you start swimming. Whereas in a trance that is created in therapy, you go straight onto the diving board, maybe 20 feet high, and you dive in the middle of the pool. And you are right there where your problem is. And because of that, all that clarity, the therapist is guiding you to now see what happened. Because the therapist doesn't know the story. It is the client who sees the story. So it is that difference, but it is the same. So when people have been meditating for years, they can reach that level easily. But here, within 5 minutes, the client goes to that level.
What about illnesses?
So you see, what studies have shown us is that everything starts with thought. A thought gives rise to emotions. Emotions bring in energy changes in the mind, in the body. And when we cannot handle the situation, finally it goes and becomes a physical disease. Okay? I'll just give you a small example, very simple, that there's a person I don't like. So the thought is, I don't like this man. Now that man comes to me and I just have that horrible hatred coming up. So my body is all charged up. So that has come to the body. Okay?
Yeah.
So just from the thought, just being with the person whom I don't like, my thought is that this person is bad. I have created a change. And if I have to probably deal with that person for a long time, I'll start getting a headache. I may want to puke or whatever. So the thought has created a physical issue. Same way, a physical issue can also, create a thought. For example, I get up with low energy. So I don't feel good, and the thought is, what a horrible day, or how am I going to go through this day? So they are all interlaced, but as I told you, that the mind is so huge. So the mind really can create issues. It's all a play of the mind, and that creates illnesses. For example, I'll just tell you that we had one girl who had, she was a student of mine, and when she came in to attend the class, she could barely walk, and she was like this, and we had to give her another chair to put her feet on, and she really had such low energy. And one therapy I did for her, in which she had a previous lifetime which was overplaying on her, who actually happened to be her own sister in the current life, and she is reincarnated as her, where that child had meningitis and had died, and she was a very beautiful child. And now this one takes birth in the same way, and somewhere someone mentioned that child to her, and she started getting unwell. And that one therapy, within an hour or so, she wanted to eat everything. Where nothing was suiting her, she would just go and throw up. And then for the next 5 days, she was the one who planned the menu, and she is my star pupil also. That so much difference it made. Just sometimes, of course, it may take more time. Then, for example, I'll tell you that there are some people who can't have, some couples who cannot conceive. So, but medically there's nothing wrong with them. So then you go take them back into the thoughts that are not allowing them to, have children. And they go and they conceive then.
Thoughts become things. In fact, I have a personal story about this. I had a really bad back issue once, to the point that I collapsed in my room. I was literally crying in pain. And you did some therapy for me in a surrogate way, which we'll touch on in some time. And at no point did I say that I'll only go with this and not go to an orthopedic, which I did. He had advised me to be on bed rest for 20 days in his clinic and stuff like that. So I did go through some of the stuff he'd advised me. But in that moment, that therapy definitely helped me. And my takeaway here is that if any of this can help you in any way,
yes,
whether it actually happened in the past life or it's your imagination, to me, it doesn't matter.
So what I tell everyone is that whether you remember a story that you have read somewhere, or whether you remember a movie that you have seen somewhere, that plot of the story or plot of the movie is going to help you resolve your issue. That is the plot. It is the plot that matters. So we never force anyone to believe that there is a previous lifetime or anything. It doesn't matter. Because I'm asking you a question. I'm just saying, okay, so you're having pain or something, and I'm saying, where are you? And you say, I'm standing on top of a mountain. I'm not telling you that you are standing on top of the mountain. You are creating this story. Your mind is making you go through that story. And then maybe you fall down and you've cracked your backbone. And that is now playing up in your current life. It's very amazing to see people who have, let's say in disease, asthma. So asthma is not being able to breathe properly. So maybe that person, 99% I've seen, have died of drowning or in a gas chamber, or have been, someone has pressed their throat. They're not able to breathe. Okay? they have died like this. Now in the current life, what happens is that they are in an environment where they don't feel they can breathe, because it is such a constricting environment for them that suddenly this thought comes to them that I can't breathe. And then all that physical thing from the past comes into them, where they are literally actually not able to breathe. So asthma is something which I feel can just be cured in half an hour. And they are free of that. I've worked with so many clients with asthma.
Yeah, that's actually crazy to think that things can heal. And again, just to be very clear, it's not like everything can happen in one sitting or whatever.
No.
Some things will take time and can take time. What about relationships? And with relationships, I've gone through some therapies which are more to do with constellations. Is this a good time to even touch on that?
Yeah. So family constellation is also a very good process in which, I'll just explain it to you.
Yeah.
So we are all born in a family. We all have parents, we have siblings, we have grandparents, and we take our family for granted. And then we also have our own interpretations about each family member. It may not be the truth, but it is our own interpretation. So we go into all these interpretations that are our own interpretations, and we reunite people. And family constellation is something which is, everything is related to the family. The way you are brought up, the way that is a foundation of whatever you're going to do in the future. Your future, your happiness, everything depends on the family. So even though it's called family constellation, it can be done for organizations, it can be done for a table, for example. I'm so attached to my table that I can't let go of it.
Who's attached to their table?
Yeah, people are, you'll be. I know of people who are even attached to their broken bottles. And then you find out that actually it is some family member who reminds them of that table. So they don't want to get rid of it.
Fair.
And in family constellations, what happens is that it is a surrogate form of therapy. That there will be a bunch of people who are strangers to the client. And yet, when they are made representatives of the client's story, they enact out the whole story for the client. Now, I only know what I'm thinking. Okay? But I don't know what the other person in the relationship is thinking. And all that comes out into the open. And it is a thing where, because when you do therapy, the client may still try to hide things. But here it's out in the open, strangers are saying this. Of course, many times people say this is not the truth or something. It's okay if they don't want to listen to it. But that is what the field shows up. So, remember we did a constellation for you.
So we've gone through, I've done a constellation therapy 3 times now. But I'll actually talk about the last one.
Yeah.
Right? So I'd gone to the therapist I see, and she was like, "How do you feel?" And I was like, "I feel like I have 3 balloons on top of my head." And she's like, "Okay, describe the balloons more." And I was like, "There's red, white, and red, black, and white." So that day we tackled 2 of those, and the red one was left. And this is all done. 1 month later, I'm doing a constellation therapy with her. And like what you said, right, this is surrogate. So you're watching this happen and there are other people playing you. So now my therapist has asked someone else who has no clue about me, who has no clue of my past therapies or anything. And she's like, "How do you feel?" And she's like, "I feel like I have a red balloon on top of my head." And that was just freaky, right? How can this be this accurate? But the surrogate thing, what is even the basis of a surrogate therapy, or how can this?
So, in family constellation, magically a field forms. No one has any explanation for it. And this field has no geographical boundaries. Because now we are mostly, I work on Zoom. So one person could be sitting in China and one person could be sitting in Dubai and 2 maybe in the next house as me. It doesn't matter. But a field gets formed, and that field is what we call the informing field. And that automatically, whoever is participating in it automatically channels. And I don't know, it's a mystery how this forms, but it does form. It is very accurate and it is very powerful.
Yeah, I think it really helps you to understand the situation.
Yes.
And like you said, right, it's not only about a relationship, but you could perhaps do a constellation between you, your business partner, and even the company as a third entity.
Yes.
You could do it in multiple scenarios where everything becomes its own entity, and it's just it's a perspective. It's been a good learning, at least whenever I've tried it.
See, I'll just give you an example of a very close friend of mine who got breast cancer. So she's also a therapist, so I worked a lot with her. And then the other day she said, I want to go to the first cell that mutated, and why. What is the reason for that first cell to mutate? And because so when we did her constellation, her rep said, I'm a child and I'm standing behind the wall, and there is someone telling my mother something, and my mother has just collapsed, and I'm so scared, I don't know what to do. And what had happened was that her father had met with an accident when she was 5 years old. He was in the army. The mother had not been told about it. The uncle knew, but the mother didn't know. This family didn't know. And every day her uncle would ask her, have you heard from your husband? And the husband was merrily writing letters to her or calling her up. And one day a Jawan came from that unit, and he presumed that the wife knew. So he just said, ki sir, to abhi aane wale hain hospital se. So she got a shock of her life. What is this? So she just collapsed. And the child is seeing that now my father has met with an accident. The mother didn't know that the child knew. And my mother has collapsed. And there was so much of fear in that child that first cell kind of mutated. Of course, it took her years for that cell to finally multiply, because then maybe in between there were different stages when she has felt that same fear. But once that child was okay, we made the child, like, you make the child meet the father. The father's fine. The father has died at 80. So then the child is reassured. This brings us to another thing that I would like to talk about. That is an inner child.
Yeah, and in fact, a lot of people are now talking about inner childs.
So, whenever something happens to us, that part of that age of that soul remains at that age. For example, for this friend of mine, that 5-year-old was very much alive. Like, when I say dead means it hasn't grown. It remains 5 years old. So whenever something happens to her, she hears of some accident or something, that 5-year-old child activates. That 5-year-old child now takes over the 40-year-old body. Okay? So this is what we call an inner child. So our inner children are stuck. But as an adult, as an adult, we laugh that, when I was in school, my teacher used to make me stand out of the class. It's a very big thing. People are very, say it in a very good way, as if it was a very good thing to happen. But what happened to that child who was put outside the room is a big trauma. So that child is stuck there in the trauma. So once that child is made to realize that it's okay, your life went on, you did well, you have done this, you have done that, then that child can come out of that trauma. So many a times our life is being run by inner children.
I also think, like this example, right? I think it's always celebrated that when we were growing up, we would get slapped or whatever, right? And that's how.
Which you didn't get.
And then people will be like, yeah, but we turned out fine. And then it's like, but did you? Like, is everything okay though?
Yeah.
And a lot of times we look back at a thing like this, the example you gave, and laugh about it. But yeah, maybe that time how you felt was very, very different.
So you are stuck there. A part of you is still stuck in that, is probably still standing outside the door of that classroom. Also, I'll tell you how it affects. Like once I had this person who came to me and said that, I work so hard in office, but no one notices me. Other people get the credit. So when he goes back we found the reason. When he was 3 years old, his parents were fighting. And when he entered the room, they probably were glaring at each other, but they turned and glared at him. So this child thought that they are fighting because of me, they are angry, because for the child is the center of the world. Everything is because of the child. So the child says, now I will not show myself up. So maybe as a child he could hide, when people came he would hide, or generally he would hide. But over a period of time, that child build up a behavior that would keep him in the background. That served for that child and that served for that person for many years. But now, when the person is grown up, the person is working, now the person needs to be noticed. But that behavior of being in the background continues. So once this child was made to understand that, things, whatever how we do it, like we bring in the parents, the child understands, or the adult can tell the child, it's okay, let me now take charge, you let go of this. And then the things change.
Interesting. We'll take a short little break, and when we come back, we will discuss more about hypnosis and past life regression.
Yes.
Hey everyone, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. We have a special announcement. Introducing Club Paisa Vaisa, where you get episodes of Paisa Vaisa 3 days before release, bonus and ad-free content, and access to the full show archive. So get your yearly membership today for only rupees 6.99. Log on to club.ivmpodcast.com/paisavaisa. On Cock and Bull, Cyrus is joined by Shreyas Manohar and comedian Masoom Rajwani. Shreyas shares a crime fiction story that couldn't take off, plus they discuss a story of Santas getting assaulted while driving tanks and much more. On The Advertiser's Guide to the Galaxy, Karthik talks about the creative device in the field of advertising involving financial brands. On The Origin of Things, Deepak tells the origin story of a popular song that deals with glamour, wealth, egos and insecurities. On the Habit Coach's Know Your Coach series, we get to ask Ashton about his sleep routine and the regime he follows for a good night's sleep. And on Smarter with Sid, Siddharth dwells into the mysterious world of the hive mind, explaining how groups can create a collective consciousness and how it can lead to both good and bad outcomes. Once again, do not forget to visit our merch store on ivmpodcast.com. We have some super cool and exciting stuff over there for you and your loved ones. Follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. If you like our shows, then do spread the word. It really helps us a lot. And of course, do not forget to rate and review our shows wherever you are listening to them. You can also find all our video shows on youtube.com/IVM Podcasts. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week, Capgemini and HDFC Mutual Fund. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back to A Niche Thing. We're talking about hypnotherapy and past life regression and some other alternate theories with Anita Bhasin, who happens to be my mother. Well, we've spoken so much about different aspects and different therapies. What does a typical therapy session entail?
Okay. So in a typical hypnotherapy session, I have a chat with the client to understand what is the reason why the client wants a therapy. Then we set up a contract that from this therapy, what do you want to achieve? Okay. Then the process of taking them into a trance is like make them either talk about it, because as I told you that when we talk about something, then we are actually there. Or if someone says, I'm feeling heavy in the chest, what you do is that the client has said a few sentences which you feel are charged sentences. So you make them repeat it. So one of those sentences would generally create a physical feeling for them. For example, someone will say, I feel my heart is heavy or this. So just elaborate that on that. Make them talk about it more. Once they repeat those lines, maybe the charge becomes more. And then just say that go back into time when for the first time you thought this, you felt this, and this was happening in your body. And that's it. That person is there in the middle of a trauma somewhere. Because generally people land in the middle of a trauma, whether it is your current life or it is a previous lifetime, because happy situations will not create issues in the current life. It's only problematic issues that create the problems. So once that is dealt with, we need to get the story. We need to get the logic. As I said, the client needs to get logic out of it. Then we say the client is made to think that we take them, if it is a previous lifetime, take them to the death. And then it is that it has ended here and now. It's over. It no longer comes into your life. for example, I'll tell you that someone has, there is, we have been created in a way that we can sort out any issue. That is what a human being can do. So if I meet X and I feel this much, let us say, anger towards that person, now I'm going back into my memory, and that anger, that shade of anger is bringing up something from the past. It is triggering that. So instead of this much, I feel this much anger. This much anger I can deal with, but I don't know where the rest of the anger is coming from. So you go into the past to see where it is coming from, resolve that, and then the current thing also disappears on its own.
It's sometimes surprising how quickly your anger or resentment towards someone can change after one of these kind of things, right?
Yes. Lots. It just changes. And then, when you meet them again, they'll say, now that person didn't behave in the manner that would anger me. It is not that. It is not. That person is still the same. That person hasn't come for therapy. Of course, it is that when you are banging against two things, then one stops, then how long will the other one bang? But then it is that my tolerance has gone up. My understanding has come that this person is behaving because of something. The logic has come into the situation and the situation disappears. And then once we found the logic, the person has got the wisdom, then you make them see the future. How will you now behave with this wisdom and this backlog gone? Now how are you going to deal in a situation? And then you make them see the full thing. Like, you bring in, okay, so now you are behaving like this. How are other people responding to you when you behave like this? Create a big thing for them, because the subconscious mind is very scared of going into new things that it doesn't know. But when we are creating a scene for that, we are creating a new memory. The subconscious mind is not the intelligent mind. So for itself, an experience can come from a book, from a movie, from anything. So this is a new experience that is created by the client for themselves, so that now you can easily move into that way.
It's almost like getting closure about something, right? And
Yes,
moving on.
Closure and moving on.
You said the word trigger, and now trigger warnings have become a very, in a way, a very good thing, right? That you know that you're going to, some people might get triggered by something you're saying. But in a way, it's just that. You're getting triggered by someone, but you just don't know why, because it's a subconscious.
Because it's in the subconscious. And Anish, that when something happens to us which is not really good and we don't know how to respond, it just takes 0.004 seconds for us to go into our memory, into the subconscious. And then we react in a manner which later surprises us many times. Why did I get so angry? It was such a small thing. But actually, for the subconscious mind, there is no time. Conscious mind follows linear time. For the subconscious mind, anything that it is accessing is happening in the now. So when actually someone has been rude to me for the first time, but maybe previously 20 times that rudeness has come to me from maybe that same person in another avatar or through someone else. So I am responding for the 21st time.
Yeah.
But consciously now later I'm thinking, why did I respond like this?
Yeah.
So once you understand why did you respond like this, remove that whatever was bringing in all that much of emotion, you're absolutely fine.
I also think a lot of people, and this has been said many times, that people who you really like and people who you really dislike,
Yes.
you definitely have some karmic connection with them, right?
Yes.
It's not that randomly you have such extreme feelings either way for someone. Yeah.
So, nothing in life is coincidence. Coincidence, if you see, does not even exist in the Hindi language. We have ittifaq, which is in an Urdu word, not a Hindi word. And there is nothing random. It may look very random, but it is not random. So when we are coming in, especially close relationships, especially family, why are we coming together? Because maybe previously we had some differences, but this time we are going to sort it out with love. But something happens which we don't know, which will bring in that previous incident into us, and we don't want to like that person.
Basically, if you don't want that person in your next life, please be nice,
yeah.
forgive that person, move on.
It's very amusing that a lot of ladies come with mother-in-law problems. Huh? And the mother-in-law died 20 years back, but they are still thinking of her. So what we generally do is that when something unpleasant happens to us, let us say I feel this much, then I'll think of it again and I'll add more to it. Then I'll think of it and I'll add more to it. So what do we do in life is that we give ourselves to other people and say, you have the power of hurting me even when you are not there. Yes? And we create actually a Rai ka pahad. Hai na? So when we just tackle one or two things, that pahad just falls and your relationship is okay. And I always tell them, do you want to same kind of a life again? No, we don't. Then finish it off here. Where is the need to carry it on?
Yeah. Before we end, anything around self-hypnosis or something that people can adapt in their regular lives generally for better focus?
Like so many times we've helped children with self-hypnosis. So self-hypnosis is a way, like we give them certain words that they have to chant, and then after some time it becomes a part of their life. For example, the moment someone says, take 3 deep breaths, at the second breath, I'm already somewhere else. So you suppose someone wants to do well in the exam and they've studied a lot, but they say, I will forget. So you say, okay, so now you teach them self-hypnosis and say, now when you go to write your paper, the moment you will hold the question paper in your hand, you will remember all that you have studied.
So again, you're just putting triggers.
Yeah. Then I know of a girl who had come to me because she had to run a race in the school. And she was actually a bad runner. But we found a talent for her, where she had been a good runner. And then we gave her the trigger that the moment that guy makes that whistle or that whatever, you will run like you have never run before. And she actually came first. Then
you sound so surprised and amused about this.
Yeah, actually, I didn't know whether it would work that time or not because I was very new into this field. So we do give triggers and it happens, it works. So, but that person has to then just learn that, but a person who is taught self-hypnosis has to be very disciplined because you can use it for, you never know how you will use it.
In what way?
You can start using it for negative things also. So it is to be used very consciously.
But when you say negative, only for yourself, right?
Only for yourself, but then you'll end up harming yourself, no? That is the thing. And, people have fears and phobias.
I definitely have a couple of phobias. Again, very interesting thing, fears and phobias. Where fear is a lot more rational, but phobia is a little more irrational fear.
Very irrational.
I have a phobia of being in the ocean, being in water. And when I watch a movie that has anything to do with someone drowning,
yes,
Titanic, Dunkirk, there's a scene where they're all hiding somewhere and they might drown soon. That physically affects my body.
Yes.
Jumping out of a plane, which I've done, that makes no difference. That's adrenaline, that's great. But anything to do with water and deep ocean, I physically just feel uncomfortable just thinking about it.
That is because probably if you get therapy done on it, there would have been a life you may have had where you have died of drowning. So phobias, when irrational, like someone, I know a lady who used to start screaming the moment she saw even a pup.
Yeah.
And then just in one session it was over.
Yeah.
So phobias are something that you can work on through hypnosis.
Yeah, and again, you may not be able to go to a quote-unquote regular doctor and say, I have a fear of pups. What can I take, right?
No, you may go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
But they may not be able to sort it out as easily as it is done here.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing all your knowledge. How can someone get in touch with you?
Thank you, Anish, for having me. And I have a company by the name Unbound with Ra, with a partner, Rachna Jog. And we do Constellations. We teach. It's a teaching company. We teach, and plus we have experiential workshops also. And my email ID is anita54bhasin@gmail.com. And we have a website which is still in the making called familyconstellationsasia.com.
Cool.